Met Gala 2023, Karl Lagerfeld, a line of beauty. Anne Hathaway is a 10 out of 10. This is the Met Gala. This is perfection. Theme, nailed. Come on, co-chair, show them how it's done. She's doing Karl better than Karl ever did. Karen Ellison reminding us why she is a supermodel. You know, Karl loved androgyny, and she definitely brought that. This is iconic. The cat, as Chupat, amazing. Freaking fabulous. A muse to be proud of. On theme and on brand. I'm not really sure if it's on theme, but he looks hot. Well, she definitely brought beauty. Let them know you're a Chanel couture client, honey. This is stunning. The driving gloves, the leather, the flower, very Karl. Wednesday at the Met. Amazing. I mean, how is she eating so hard and she's so young? She looks phenomenal. Brava. So Tom Brown won, right? Now that's one way to wear a white shirt. This man can't be stopped. Thank you for representing. Icon. Yum. Yes. 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 Best male. A timeless muse, Alexa Chung, my fave. Masterclass in ageless style. I think Cardi might be the new queen of the Met.
Eku, nice to have you.
Hi, Kenim. Nice to be back.
Of course. So the Met Gala, right? Some
Yes.
incredible looks. Let's go through some of, your favorites,
Yeah, so it's interesting because normally with the Met Gala, I find that I have many favorites, but I was able to sort of identify my favorites pretty quickly on this Met Gala. And I don't know if that's because they didn't share all the images, but, Anne Hathaway was my top 5 was Anne Hathaway, Jen Ortega, Cardi B, Sora Choi, and Bad Bunny.
So walk me through some of these looks. Let's start with Cardi B. What about her look stood out to you?
So I actually loved her red carpet look. I wasn't fussed by the going to the Met Gala look, which was the, I think, homage to Chanel bridal. I didn't see that. But I really liked her red carpet look, which was the quilted dress, and so they had the roses and then the white shirt, the tie, and then she did the gray platinum hair and a hairband. I just loved how pop culture it was in a way. It's sort of taking the Karl Lagerfeld essence and making it into pop culture in a way, because it's exaggerated. It's using, the puffer is sort of like a urban aesthetic, and then, very much who she is, and then obviously still adding the shirt and tie, and then the hair. I just felt that she's so great at communicating a theme. She just never seems, and she knows how to dress her body, which is, her body is not the easiest to look elegant, and she's able to do that. And then her third look was the Richard Quinn sort of cardigan quilt dress, which is very much another exaggerated version of the Chanel original. And in her sexiness, in her bad babe way, she's able to sort of make fashion relevant for her, and it doesn't feel like she doesn't have access to it, because sometimes I feel like certain urban artists can cheapen the look of fashion, and it has to be maintained. It has to be hip hop, and if it's not that, then it's not, then it sort of sits in that weird space of always being stage wear, whereas Cardi is able to make the fashion statement. I don't know what exactly the terminology is, but she has that ability. So that's why I really like Cardi's stuff. Sora Choi.
Oh, wait, just before you go on, let's talk about the roses that not just she wore, Rihanna wore, Diddy wore. For those that don't know, what is the link between Karl Lagerfeld and these roses that have been exhibited on so many artists or so many people that attended?
Well, it's very synonymous with the Chanel brand. That Karl Lagerfeld was obviously creative director for many, many, many years, and he loved flowers. His favorite flower, I don't even think was a rose. I think he liked lilies, and he liked, apparently like chrysanthemums. So I don't think it's, but everyone knows the carnation on the Chanel that is associated with Chanel that we see. It's the sort of logo they have as well, even on the gift boxes. So it was something that is very synonymous with, a brand that he made trendy. Like, Chanel was going through a very stuffy stage, and Karl Lagerfeld was able to stay true to the brand while also making it young, fresh, edgy, trendy. He, grungy as well. He was able to deliver Chanel into, mainstream in a way where it was covetable to want Chanel pieces again, and no longer just, I don't know, Upper East Side stuffy women who believe that, that Chanel is a uniform. I don't know.
It seems as though, on this red carpet, there were so many people that took on themes from his personal interests and personal likes. I think about, people dressing as, a cat, from Jay Leto to Lil Nas X to Doja Cat. So they're really celebrating him on this personal level. But I have a question, because Anna Wintour went on CBS Morning.
And some would say the choice to honor Karl Lagerfeld is a bit of a surprising choice. Critics have said we should not be celebrating someone who made fatphobic, racist, sexist comments throughout his career.
Well, obviously, Karl was a complicated man, and I think Andrew's decision really to focus on the work and it's not a biography. There are documentaries and books that cover all sides of Karl's life. We're really focusing on his work.
When you hear some of the things he said, at one point he talked about Adele's weight. He said no one wants to see a curvy woman. He said of the Me Too movement, I'm fed up with it in 2018. When you hear comments like that, and there was a long list of them, what do you all think? How do you reconcile that with what we're going to see?
Karl was provocative, and he was full of paradoxes, and I think sometimes he would say things, Gail, to shock, and not necessarily things that he believed in. And obviously, there are things that he has said that Andrew and I do not agree with. But I think when we go back and we look at the work that he has created over so many years, I think that deserves celebration. It deserves acknowledgement.
I think it's good to have the conversations where you're able to separate someone's bad qualities and speak against them without, I think, taking away from what was an immensely talented, but, obviously a flawed person. I think it's a dangerous narrative these days we have to, this false cancel culture that we have, where we want to condemn, but we don't want to teach. And we don't want to sort of possibly look at the reasons why he was the way that he was. The fashion industry in itself is very, very flawed. And he was a product of that, and he was born into that. The size zero culture was not something that he born. I imagine if you were creating in the time that he was creating, it was probably drummed into him that, real models are stick thin and couture models are stick thin. And it's the same as ballet. It becomes a part of your psyche, and you imbibe some of these cultural things associated with fashion, and and I think you become very snooty. And I think it's important as us as a society to be able to have the conversation where we say, well, no, actually fashion should be a lot more inclusive. But he's a relic, he's a relic of a time. It's like trying to teach our grandparents, we can only go forward and say, yeah, grandma was a little bit hooey, and we tried to we try to correct that, but it's for us to correct that message instead, as opposed to say, oh, this guy that actually was such a great contributor to the narrative of fashion should be completely cancelled because he himself as a man was personally flawed. And he obviously had his own demons. I mean, he was chubby at a time. He clearly had an eating disorder at a point. You know what I mean? This is somebody that was also suffering the pressure of being in an industry that is not just for now. It's something that's been going for a long time. And I don't think it's wrong to celebrate that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
funny enough, I gave a similar answer, that he was a product of his environment, and that was what was acceptable. The fact that before, think about it, 200-300 years ago, slavery was considered a norm, but in our society now, we're like, what the hell? But imagine 200 years from now, there are things that we're doing today, maybe cancel culture in itself, that they're going to look like, wow, like, how can you cancel people because of, so I guess, yeah, there's this evolution when it comes to what is acceptable, right? Or acceptability politics.
I mean, and I don't know, like, I didn't follow his career as closely, post these comments, but I'm pretty sure that his, Chanel, they do have plus size models that have, or they have tried in their own way to move towards inclusivity, the same as the industry. And I'm not saying that Chanel is his only legacy, but it is his most notable in a way, because obviously he had relationships with other great houses and he was able to do a lot of contributions there as well. I think he was with Jean-Paul Gaultier. Who else was he with? Well, we'll have to get the book, A Line of Beauty, and really go into that. But yeah.
Let's move on to Anne Hathaway's look. So what about it just really stood out to you?
So what I think is great is when, it's in a way for designer houses as well to also pay homage to the individual. And I like the way it was a good fusion of Versace, while also picking up on the tweed that was, obviously so much used by the Chanel house during Lagerfeld's time as well. And it was a well-styled look. Her hair looked great. It was the great balance of edgy and sexy, and she looked comfortable. So I just thought she looked really, really good. I definitely saw the Karl Lagerfeld inspiration. And, it's interesting with these themes. I always struggle with when people say, oh, it's just a theme to sort of, you can take anything and you can completely run with it. And, they'll say, oh, I was inspired by the button on his shirt one day when he was walking on the sand or something. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but it still has to be consumed by people that are looking at the theme and being like, what exactly is that? Or, and I like the fact that, at this point, the Met Gala is so globally consumed that I don't think you can be so obscure with your interpretation. I think it's nice to hit the theme,
right?
And also,
so who would you say? Yeah, who would you say was off theme?
I don't think Kim Kardashian. I don't think she got the theme. That's the thing. I feel like, yes, obviously, pearls are very synonymous with Chanel, but or with Karl Lagerfeld and the brands that he's worked with. But it did feel a bit to me like, okay, so you just wanted to wear pearls? I don't know.
And she perfectly showed her figure with this, right?
She did. Like, she was, like, it was reminiscent of her Playboy. You remember that Playboy? Is it the cover that she had? Is it 2007 or something where her mom was like, "You're doing great, honey." Yeah. She just looked unimaginative in a weird way, even though she was wearing Schiaparelli, and Schiaparelli obviously is great at her at dressing someone with her type of physique. I did kind of feel like, I don't know, it just felt like it didn't hit the mark. Then obviously there's some people.
So do you think that Kim has been struggling fashion-wise? Do you think Kim has been struggling fashion-wise post Kanye? Because that was sort of the speculation, that she's going to struggle, making. Because before, when she was with Kanye, we would almost wait to see what Kim was wearing, right? But now it was like the Kardashians just have lost their sort of like, I guess nobody was watching the Met Gala to see the Kardashians this
Yeah, I
time.
mean, Kylie was off too as well. I know that she was wearing a, I think Jean Paul Gaultier dress. But I was like, you could wear this any day, any regular day. Kylie could wear this. I do think that you see that Kanye when it comes to fashion and creativity was the genius in that duo. As wacky as he is, he has a really great eye, and he also has a really good sense for how trends move, and also he's able to move trends as well. I think that Kim is a little bit too OCD, and she's a little too much of a student. She's too much of a student and not a trend leader. So even when he was dressing her, there was a little bit of her answering to him as a teacher, right? But he was just a better creative director with her image. I think her creative directing her own image feels very forced, and because she seems quite a stiff person when it comes to decisions anyways. So I do think that she's moving into that slightly tacky sense of style that she had pre-Kanye. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I have a question. I've noticed that people are reinventing the train, right? So normally you'll get a train, with a dress. But on this red carpet, Kendall Jenner had her train coming out of her sleeves. Kim Kardashian is like this sort of like jacket that she's wearing, or I don't know what this is. Or even Bad Bunny, he had it in his scarf. So like, what are your thoughts on that? Sort of like this new take on like, I assume it's from this sort of bridal train theme, and that's the link to Karl Lagerfeld. What's your thoughts on that?
I think the train is like a smart way to make a not so grand outfit look grand, and it's almost like a cheat of how to add, I guess, more grandeur to an outfit, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, there's certain trains that I actually really like Bad Bunny's train, because it was like a train of roses, and it did feel like almost this could be something in a music video, and he kind of brought that concept to life. White roses, Bad Boy, Bad Bunny, and like and then and also a train can be great.
And he did exactly what you just described, right?
Yeah. And then
I said he did exactly what you described, right? Because he's wearing something very plain,
Yeah.
but it stands out because of the train.
and then
of roses, right?
his jacket was backless as well. So there was a lot of things. So like, you follow the train, you're like, oh, okay, and then there's also a whole gap in the back. So there was an interesting.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
with like a chain hanging at the back. So he's very cheeky as well. And,
I'm just seeing it now.
and it was kind of I don't know, it's playing with his sexuality a bit. So it was nice. It was like an interesting little conversation going on there.
So here's the thing. There's a lot of feminization of men and vice versa, right? There's this sort of like gender spectrum that we saw on the red carpet, more pronounced than we've seen in previous years. Like with everybody from, was it Alton Mason, to all these other people that sort of dress in a more feminine way. Tiana Taylor, being more masculine at the top, but obviously she's wearing a skirt at the bottom. What are your thoughts on that? And also, before I even say that, but we did have men, I guess as the black men, like I would say, from Diddy to Burna Boy, who, even though they didn't completely feminize, they were more giving this sort of, I don't know, medieval sort of like dressy style that in modern era we would consider more feminine, but historically has been very, very masculine. So what's your thoughts on all of that?
So for me, I think that style has no limitations when it comes to gender. I think it's how one chooses to interpret fashion, and and it's really up to the individual, and if they're able to pull it off, and if it's authentic to them, like you said, through history, men have worn cloaks and skirts, and the garments have gone through being feminized or not feminized. I think with this Met Gala, I was expecting to see more men actually dressing in a masculine way, because that's a Karl Lagerfeld thing. His last collection was sort of anybody could wear it. He kind of felt that the suit, the shirt, androgyny was a thing that he felt was attractive, and men and women had different doses of femininity and masculinity. So even playing with those forms is a very Karl Lagerfeld thing. And I think we saw Kirsten Stewart wearing, her makeup was very much about looking like a young man, and that was the look that came from the Chanel house as well, because she was dressed by Chanel. But in regards to men wearing more feminine outfits, it's weird. I don't find it so much a predictor of sexuality. I don't really put the two hand in hand with each other. So I don't say because you're wearing a skirt now all of a sudden you're feminine.
No, but that's what I'm talking about, though. That's kind of the shift that we're seeing in fashion, that they're removing that link from sexuality and gender, which was not traditionally done, let's say 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, but I think it's exciting. I do think men's fashion is very limited, so it's fun for them. There's only so many suits that you can wear.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think there's only so many suits that you can wear. And I think if, Jamie, like women, we have all the room to play with and wear whatever we want. We can wear men's clothes, we can wear women's clothes, and it's not frowned upon. I think that if a man is choosing to be a bit more creative, then it's I think it's a healthier environment, for and it's also it's a more expansive industry for designers as well, to be able to create pieces that are a little bit more dynamic for each person. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not someone who thinks that you should be limited by your choice in clothing purely based on your gender, if that makes sense.
So have you seen this applied in reality? Because as much as fashion has been doing this, I would say for the past maybe 3 or so years, I haven't seen it applied on the streets, at least not here in America. But have you seen it, applied by straight heterosexual men?
So the thing is, I live in Nigeria, right, where cultural fashion is becoming modern mainstream fashion as well. Before, it was sort of like renegated to traditional weddings or you're getting married, but more and more the entertainment scene that I have, the men do play with pieces. They do add skirts, and they do add non-typical fabrics and blouses. They when I say blouses, not a classic men's shirt, and they're very masculine. I never, it doesn't look off to me. And maybe because we're in a culture that does, that comes from a background of African hair. We wear skirts and wrappers, and we wear lots of jewelry, and we wear dresses as men. We may not call it that. We may call it their traditional names, but it's there. And I see it playing into Western fashion. And I've never found it unusual. I find the conversation only becomes unusual when it's taking out into the West, where there's a lot of propaganda about, that type of dressing, becoming political, or becoming dangerous, or becoming something to be, used against. I don't find any of these things particularly scary. I don't find them dehumanizing. I don't find them emasculating. I don't think if I saw a guy in a kilt that I would be like, oh my God, you're wearing a skirt, because I know that Scottish men wear kilts and African men wear wrappers. So these are not things I find unusual. Do you know what I mean? I think I think what people worry about is whether the masculine is being reduced. That I'm like, I've been attracted to men wearing skirts, and I'm not, and I've never thought they were less masculine because of it. I didn't suddenly think that they had changed their preference because they were wearing a skirt. So for me, like, what people choose to wear is not as dangerous as other people think it is, if that makes sense.
So let's talk about Lil Nas X then. I mean, he was butt naked. His ass was out. He was wearing a thong.
Yeah, I think.
I've seen some of the conservative media here in America just sort of like go off on that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on his.
So I just thought he looked bad. Like I don't like I don't have. You see, stuff like this. I just don't have an opinion on, other than I just think that you look bad. And he said he was wearing Pat McGrath body paint, and I'm like, great for Pat McGrath. Pat McGrath, I hope you sell a ton of body paint, because that stuff did not move. It did not seem to come off at all. I was even surprised he was able to get it off for the after party, but I thought he looked bad. Like there's no other way for me to describe that. He looked like
Well, he was apparently dressed as Karl Lagerfeld's cat.
Oh, is that what he was?
He was dressed as his cat.
He looked like somebody
apparently.
he looked like Cirque du Soleil, and that he was going to be serving drinks or eating fireballs. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, is this what I felt like if we had walked in and there was like a row of men in body paint? I'd be like, oh great, the entertainment. You know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't have thought to myself he was a guest. I would have just been like, oh, okay, cool. That's it.
Sorry, I wonder why Sam Smith was not invited with all the sort of like he I guess he has new music out.
Well, I think,
but he's also caused a lot of controversy, in the media.
I think the thing is with all of that, I think Sam Smith is going through a discovery at the moment, and to be honest, as some sort of self-discovery or self-exploration, and I don't know, like these kind of. I don't think I'm the best person to speak on these type of topics, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the message is of what he's trying to say with his costumes. I don't know if he's just having fun or if he's just baiting the media.
Right, I understand that. But okay, let's move on.
Yeah, I don't know if he's baiting the media. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the message is behind all of that. So I just sort of like, no comments. I have nothing to say.
Okay, so then let's move on to Doja Cat. So not only was she dressed as, I guess, Karl Lagerfeld's cat as well, but she stayed in character.
Yeah.
Throughout with the meows.
Yeah.
Talk to me about fashion being used as art, and to me it was almost like a piece of performance art. And we were told that Karl Lagerfeld did not see fashion like it was art. I thought that was, called himself a dressmaker. Talk to me about your take on that.
Well, like I said, Karl Lagerfeld is just the inspiration, but he's not the dictator of anything that is happening. Like, at the end of the day, you as the individual are going to interpret fashion to you, who you are as a person, and that's a key element for me of like the Met Gala, is when you see personal style and the essence of someone come through their inspiration. It's very easy to go to Chanel and get a dress and say, oh, Chanel dressed me. And for me, that's why, interesting enough, the Chanel dressed people did not stand out. It felt like there was, there wasn't a lot of, they didn't add anything more than grab the piece. Do you know what I mean? For me, Doja Cat is Doja Cat. She is a performance artist. She is bonkers. Do you know what I mean? And but she's bonkers in that genius way that creatives are, who completely understand themselves and are unapologetic. And for me, it's exciting to see someone who's true to themselves, and it was expertly done. The makeup was flawless. And yeah, she had no business speaking. We all knew she was a cat for the night. So, meow.
So what do you think about about her in the context of like the Madonnas, the Lady Gagas, and when I guess after Lady Gaga, I thought nobody could reinvent the wheel here. Nobody could do something so like out of this,
Yeah.
well, out of our, or no one could surprise us anymore after the Lady Gaga stuff, right? But with Doja Cat, what I find interesting about her is that she's obviously she's a pop star, and pop stars, especially the women, are characterized by their sexuality and meeting conventional beauty standards. But Doja Cat has gone completely the other way, shaves off her head, doesn't sort of comply with beauty standards. She dressed as I think a trans man in one fashion show. She had the red crystals all over her face. So she's done all of this, but yet they're still singing about her in songs, saying, "I'm trying to date Doja Cat." Talk to me about some of that, the mastery of being able to do that.
So obviously it's great that you have Madonnas and the Gagas as, stepping stones to be able to sort of set a precedent where you're able to take greater risks. And to know that there's a certain amount of acceptability towards that. I think being 100% yourself is incredibly sexy. So I can see why people find her attractive. I don't think anyone can escape the celebrity gaze. I don't think that she's 100% like not also conscious of wanting to be liked. I just think that her I don't know, her inner voice is stronger clearly about just being true to herself. She's not here for it's this one life to live, one, like, if you don't do it, who will? What I get from her is somebody that is just incredibly honest and trying as hard as she can to have as authentic and honest conversations as she can. And I just hope that she protects herself, because there's also, as when you're extremely vulnerable, you're also exposed to a lot of criticism. And I hope she's healthy enough to be able to be honest to her art and not get sucked into feeling like she has to do anything. She doesn't have to stay in whatever that she chooses to do. Like, one day she might decide to be like Gaga and be like, actually, I'm gonna go and be an actor now, because she obviously seems to have the talent for it all.
I understand. So let's go to Rihanna. The Met Gala is all about Rihanna. What is Rihanna going to wear? What are your thoughts on this look this year? And ASAP, of course.
Do I felt very little, and I'm pretty sure maybe that's just me, but I had already seen so many great looks. By the time she showed up, it was like, okay, thanks for your contribution, and and ASAP as well. I mean, she looked, I mean, she looks radiant. Her skin, makeup, beauty, and she's looking really healthy, and she's carrying her second pregnancy extremely well. I didn't feel anything. I just was like, that, yay, Rihanna is here, but I wasn't excited, and I wasn't excited for what ASAP was wearing either. So,
well, do you think, in the context of Rihanna's pregnancy,
okay, I'm happy.
Do you think within the context of Rihanna's pregnancy, and we've seen her sort of parade her pregnancy as part of her outfit, this was her being pregnant, but it wasn't sort of like the showstopper, right? And I feel like the Met Gala is all about doing something unconventional and people won't expect out of you, right? So do you see that element to it with Rihanna?
Yeah, and maybe she's tired. It's not easy to style a pregnancy as well. Maybe, maybe you just like, you know what, you're gonna get what you get, and or maybe she wasn't really planning. Maybe she wasn't really planning to come there and upstage anybody, because she naturally upstages everybody anyways.
Right.
It was nice, but I don't think Valentino did anything special. I think they were more true to Valentino than anybody else. She looked like those Valentino slippers. I don't know. I just was like, this how you gonna do Karl Lagerfeld? Like this?
Finally, what about Diddy and Young Miami? Well, let's start with Young Miami because I don't know what was going on there, and I did not see the inspiration, with Karl Lagerfeld. So let me know your thoughts.
Whew. I don't know. We'll see you when we get there. Like, I don't know.
Diddy?
Like,
Even Diddy.
I just don't know. Like, maybe because they came together. I don't know. I don't know what I just felt very disappointed. And it's weird because when I see people, like someone like Diddy's a superstar to me, like I grew up with Diddy, but he was giving me uncle, He was giving me that uncle that's trying too hard,
I love Diddy's look. To be honest, what I loved about Diddy's look with me, right? He specifically reminded me of Henry VIII. It was very like medieval British,
Yes.
but
It was very Jon Snow for me.
okay, that too. But for me, what I enjoyed about it, and I know he was wearing Jean, I think, but what I liked about it for me, it was like a quill or something. But is that it was all black and it was still masculine, the way he put it together, the way it all came together. But it still tapped into that sort of like, I don't know, medieval British vibe. Whereas the guy, what's his name? Brian Trey, I can't remember his last name, but the guy, Paperboy, he was going for more of a medieval French look, very similar in line with Diddy. But personally, I loved those two looks. You didn't like them?
I'm gonna let me look at Diddy's look again because I don't know. Maybe Young Miami distracted me from
Oh, she was not.
focusing
I
on
don't. Hers was like
focusing on.
1920s showgirl. I just didn't know where that aligned with Karl Lagerfeld, to be honest. Oh, his name is Brian Trey
Okay,
Henry.
He said he said tonight I honor the greats Karl Lagerfeld and Andre Leontelli. Embracing Karl's love for pearls and camellias, this look is a tribute to the legendary impact on fashion.
Who are you talking about, Brian or
Thank
Diddy?
you, June Ambrose. I mean,
Oh, Diddy. Okay.
this was Diddy and Sean John. I don't know. Like,
It wasn't for you.
this for me, like, I I like the initial image, but there's something about balance when it comes to a look that has a lot going on. And Tom Brown got it in terms of what he did with Sora Choi. Like, and even with Jen Ortega's look, there needs to be some sort of balance. And the thing is, black on black on black, it doesn't photograph very well. Like, you don't get to see the details. Everything blends into one. So it's now that I'm looking at it that I can really see there's a lot more detail. But when you see it initially, it's just like a lot of black, like a lot of black going on, and it just looks like he's drowning in this coat of camellias. I don't know. That's the thing for me, is that maybe it's better photographed like in a studio because I don't know.
So okay, but what about
I'm not,
Brian Trey?
yeah, and then
Brian Trey, Henry.
with
To me,
his
that was more French. It's more
massive
French.
coat with the.
Yeah, it's more French medieval.
I mean, I mean, and because he had white in there as well, they broke it up. It was another look. It's interesting for me because even if I always try to think, and if I was a girl and I was wearing this, would I still rate it? And no.
Well, so I don't
guess
think it's about a woman.
weird,
I don't think
this idea of what.
So to me, I don't think it's about a woman wearing it. I don't think I would rate it if a woman wore it. But for me, it was like not just, it was the fact that they were wearing it and knowing what their image is, like the close association to sort of like hip hop and sort of like thuggery, if you will, because Paperboy, he's in Atlanta, he's a rapper, he's very just like, I don't know, not interested in being exposed to cultures, not impressed by a lot of things, his character. So to see him dressed like this in a more feminine, you know,
Who is this?
but
Hang on.
his Brian Trey,
Let me check this.
he's in
Let me look at
Atlanta.
the outfit.
I guess for me, what it is for me is the person, as well as is more of like the holistic view of the brand of the person, as well as what they're wearing. That's what I'm sort of looking at.
Oh yes. Yeah, I think for me, like you said, there was the the French Renaissance feel to this. I remember thinking I liked that the suit was satin, and and the little touches here and there. It's weird because I do like it. I think I'm a bit undivided on it. I do like it. I think that he pulls it off. Definitely. Like, I prefer it to Diddy's look. No, I do like it, actually. I do like it now that I'm looking at it. It was weird. I didn't see this look as part of the more advertised outfits. I do like it. I do like it. There's something a little bit overstyled about it as well, but it's definitely a better. It's more successful, I think, than the Diddy look. If you know what I mean. Like,
Right.
he's definitely owning
Yeah.
it. He's definitely owning it. Would I say that it's my favorite fashion choice? Because it's weird, because I know it's a costume. It's the Met Gala Costume Institute.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of you can go beyond sort of constraints of what is considered great fashion. But for me, there isn't really a difference for my taste. I like to feel that it is something that I feel would inspire other men as well. And I guess that's for me. I'm not finding it particularly inspirational for men's wear or women's wear. I think that's why I'm a bit like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm the right one to.
So here's the thing.
It doesn't appeal
I think I understand.
to my senses.
I think I understand where the disparity is. Why you think Brian Trey's look comes together better than Diddy's, because I feel as though Brian Trey took one era. He just stuck to French Renaissance, French medieval. He stuck to that. With Diddy, he's going to different decades, right, or different eras, or he's going from this sort of British Henry VIII, like you said. Sorry, I say British medieval. Game of Thrones, but he also has this sort of like pirate belt from maybe the 1800s, and he's wearing this biker jacket underneath it, which is more like, I don't know, 90s. So there's a lot. I can see what you mean by there's a lot of things going on, and it's just sort of like mismatched from that perspective. But me, I like an all black look, so.
I do like an all black look, but it's weird. Like, there has to be, if you're gonna have so many layers, black on black on black is very hard to look chic. Do you know what I mean? People always say you can't lose a black, but I sometimes think you can look very cheap with black. And it was one of the reasons why, and this is going to be super controversial because Billie Eilish has many fans. That's why I didn't really like Billie Eilish's look. I didn't.
Interesting.
I was like, that
so
looks
for me,
cheap
what was interesting
to me.
about her is
getting-
that she normally dresses masculine most of the time, and so seeing her in a feminine dress, to me, that was like, oh, that's different, that's unique.
So she kind of goes between the two. She goes between her skater look, and grungy look, and there was a moment where she went into a Marilyn era when she dyed her hair platinum blonde. So she's obviously still very much figuring out how. Oh, she does, maybe not figuring out, just enjoying being able to be masculine, a bit more grungy one day and a bit more sexy the other day. I don't know, like it felt. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like the look. I felt
So
like
nobody's talking about Lizzo and Serena Williams.
I did not like Lizzo's
What
look.
are your thoughts on this? What was that? I don't understand. Just lackluster, right?
I just think, the thing is, I think
Especially for
nobody
Lizzo.
talks about. To be honest, I think nobody talks about it. I think nobody talks about it because Lizzo's such an amazing person, Serena's the GOAT and she's pregnant. Nobody wants to like talk bad about their outfits, but there's a reason why no one's talking about the outfits. Yeah. I mean, the only thing we haven't spoken about is our two Nigerian, first time Nigerian stars on the carpet.
Okay, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about Thames. Let's talk about Burna Boy. I felt as though Thames was wearing, it was very Nigerian, but obviously Nigerian lent from the colonial era, that look. And then in addition to that, I thought that she was being considerate this time. She still kept her hair big, but she wanted whoever was sitting behind her to be able to see through it. So I thought that was what she was going for. What are your thoughts there?
I thought her look was very safe, and I'm happy that, in a way, I'm happy that she went for safe. I hope she gets invited back so that she can show us something a lot more fresh. It's because she's young and she does have a very edgy team, so I expect edgier looks. She's young, she's fresh. She should break out a little bit more. And I thought Burberry did Burna greasy, but hey.
Really? Well, what did you like about it? Because I for me, with him, it was that feminization of his look, but the way he carried it was still very masculine. So what didn't you like about it?
So for me, it's not about the garment, whether the garment is masculine or feminine or not. Like, Burna is Burna. He has great presence, and you can never take that away from him. I just didn't think it did anything for him. And I didn't like the fact that there were like 5 other guys all in the same print from Burberry. That for me is,
and
like,
they're all black.
It was
like,
just giving me
okay, let's get the UK blacks.
Like, nobody wants that.
Let's get all of them in the same thing. Stormzy, Skepta, and
And
Burna.
then I think one white guy, I think an actor, one white actor. Like,
right.
And for me, I was just like, it's giving uniform. And the Met, I just think it didn't feel, I don't think anyone's particular individual essence came out in a way that was nice, because what Tom Brown did, I felt like they all designed looks for the individual, and everybody's individual personality came out in their outfit. Mm-hmm. This just felt like, all right, line them up, put them all in the same blue. I don't know. It really, for me, detracted from what he was trying to say. I honestly
what are your
was expecting
thoughts?
Such a different look from Burna Boy.
Okay. What are your thoughts with the fact that they only invited 2 Afrobeat stars to this Met Gala when, Wizkid just dropped an album, Davido just dropped an album. They're buzzing around in sort of like the media sphere, but sort of snubbed. Do you see, this what happened with Beyonce, Rihanna back in, from 2005? That era of like, there can only be 2 of you allowed in the room. We have to limit the amount of, back then it was limit the amount of black women as singers, but now it's like, we have to limit the amount of Afrobeat singers that we let. When you think about it, the impact of Afrobeats in America right now is huge.
I guess it's not huge enough. So,
well, it is huge. I
definitely think that
it's bigger than hip hop for sure. Well, or just as big. I won't say it's bigger than hip hop, but it's just as big. Or that's where a lot of attention is going to Afrobeat. So it's interesting that they're only honoring 2. Only inviting 2.
So I guess, you know what? I guess this is more, if we're looking at it. Well, I imagine a lot of what you're saying. There's obviously is valid in the sense that there's a status quo probably that happens where when they're breaking down the Met Gala guest list, they obviously can't invite more than 2 because there's so many different sections and regions and there's pop stars, there's models, there's actors, there's veterans, there's their industry people, their financial people, their society people, they're people that want to be invited because they have a ton of money, and also the people that pay for their tickets, right? And I hear that those tickets are very, very, very expensive. So I'm pretty sure to have 2 Nigerians specifically represented does feel like a really big deal for me. It does. In terms of who and why they chose who they did, I have no idea. Like how the Met Gala picks who they think is relevant. I guess they pick who they feel is.
To me, it's just a little bit of like accepting the crumbs. It's giving, I did watch a clip of Anna Wintour addressing the way that she, selects the people. I'll play the clip here.
They say, Anna, it's called the Met Ball, but it's been referred to as Anna's party. Do you see it that way?
No, it's the Met's party, and in the end, we're trying to raise the funds and we're trying to bring people into the museum. And we hope they have a good time too.
I know everybody that comes has a great time, but everybody, Anna, always goes on and on about the guest list. What goes into your thinking about the guest list?
We're always interested in trying to reflect a cultural moment and what we feel is happening at the world at any given time.
Do you find, Anna, you're getting calls from people you haven't heard from in years?
Well, my phone is on mute.
And how do you handle the request? And how do you, because I would imagine there are some hurt feelings with people that say, Anna, how could I not come? How could you not let me in? How do you handle that?
I mean, obviously, every year is different, and we try and curate the guest list in a way that makes sense for whatever the theme of the exhibition is. And every year we try and make it different, and have different people come. So obviously there's always next year.
And based on what she did say, and she did break it down in an ambiguous way, but basically if you're hot right now, you get invited, right? And I don't think there's anybody disputing the fact that, Wizkid and Davido are hot right now, but I think that there's a way that the mainstream media has accepted Burna and Tems, and sort of, I think institutionally have accepted them in the way they haven't Wizkid and Davido. So I can understand that element to it. But ultimately, I'm just questioning, because we saw this happen with Beyonce and Rihanna, where for a whole decade, we were not allowed to see, more than two R&B singers that were black women. And then one with Nicki Minaj. It was just the three of them. And I'm just wondering, is this happening again? Now they've allowed more black people in the mix, or black Americans in the mix, but they're like, okay, no, let's now, let's like monitor how many Africans we now let into this space. Something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there were other Africans there as well in different, that we had supermodels that were Africans, that we had a Dudes, we had a Jang, we had Michaela Cole, who's from Ghana. So I do think that Africans were represented, if it's specifically just about the Afrobeats conversation. I do think that Afrobeats is recently...
Go on.
So there were, I did see, in terms of the Afrobeats conversation, I think maybe in terms of how our Afrobeat stars have related to fashion, is becoming, is becoming a thing, because there's a reason why Rihanna is the queen of the Met and not Beyonce. They've both had ample opportunities to wow at the Met, but Rihanna is the one that comes out on top because she infinitely understands fashion, and everybody agrees that she's the fashion queen. So, Burna, obviously, a big part of his brand is fashion. And Tems, recently with her style team, they've been focusing a lot more on her fashion. And also, I guess she's also the female crossover right now that I guess that Anna Wintour knows, right? Mm-hmm. Because it would have been great to see someone like Tiwa on the red carpet, because she has been doing this for a long time, and I think she definitely would have slayed the red carpet. And it was even ironic that the designer that Tems wore, Tiwa has worn before for another red carpet event. So she's obviously also is a trendsetter as well that just hasn't been given that opportunity. So yeah, let's.
I almost wonder if. So I almost wonder if it's the fact that these two people, Burna Boy and Tems, are more fashion adjacent from the Western perspective. Because yes, Tiwa Savage is a fashion, she's fashion adjacent, yes, but in Africa, right? But not necessarily in the West. She hasn't sort of aligned her brand with the fashion industry in the West. So that's probably why. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, and she also hasn't had like, okay, so she hasn't, both Thames and Burna have been in the Grammy conversation, which is a very much a Western platform that has opened up opportunities for them. Thames has also been nominated for an Academy Award, so now they're operating in a space where they're visible to the Anna Wintours of the world, because I don't really see Anna Wintour listening to Afrobeat. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure there's someone on her team that is advocating really strongly, and they probably say, okay, show us two people, and who's that Burna guy, and who's that Thames girl that caused a bit of a ruckus at the Academy Awards. That's how I kind of see those conversations going. I don't see them.
Right, I understand.
I really don't see them thinking, who are the fashion trendsetters of the world, and they draw up like the Afrobeats list of artists and go, these are them. I'm like, no, I don't think that's what I think. Now Afrobeat superstars are more conscious of the fashion choices that they're making, and they're drawing from that, and becoming, because to be honest, I honestly think you have no business being at the Met unless you're going to actually do something with what you're wearing. Because there were some people there, I just thought to myself,
why?
I know you're famous, but you don't need to waste your time dressing up. It's just
so. I think one thing I noticed about the fashion industry is that one thing I noticed about the fashion industry is that they align themselves with whatever is hot right now, sort of to push sales, right, or to push trends, because fashion on its own just won't get 100%. Your attention. But if you align it with a musician, if you align it with a film or a film buzz, if you align it with something that's culturally being talked about, then it gets its relevance in that way.
I think Vogue, it took them. I think one of the reasons why Anna Wintour did very well is because she recognized that, a snooty Vogue that was stuck in the past was not going to sell, was not going to remain relevant, and that's why she started putting celebrities on her covers. And that was a really big thing that Anna Wintour did with American Vogue, was to say, we're no longer just going to be putting supermodels on the covers. We're now also going to be aligning with actors.
I remember that was a conversation in the early 2000s.
What's hot. Yeah, and I'm also just like, and I think, and like you said, all these people are disposable to her in the long term. Stay hot, stay relevant, and you'll get on Vogue. If you're not, the next person will be here to be able to carry the flame. And then obviously, she does have people that she still reaches out to, and they typically become co-chairs. They become co-chairs, and that is where she's able to sort of play a little bit with her choices, I guess, of who she thinks can actually influence or she admires. I don't know. But as far as, there's a reason why Rihanna, Cardi, these are the people that people are saying are queen of the Met. These are the people that are taking it seriously. These are the people that are aspiring to be accepted by these sort of, like you said, Western, whitewashed platforms. So
fair enough. And at the end of the day, like, ultimately it's better that we create our own platforms and we can highlight ourselves. That's obviously the ultimate goal, right?
100%. 100%, because at the end of the day, all that you constantly see from this narrative, it's the people of what do we say? It's the people of spice and color and essence, and the people with a little bit more character that seem to be creating all the talking points. So let's create our own talking points on our own platforms, if we can agree.
All right.
We all just need to agree.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eku, for joining. And I'll see you, and hopefully you could come on again.
Thanks for having me.
All right.